I think what's most interesting about this conversation about Cheyenne Bryant, whether she's a doctor or not, is that her real story is actually more than enough. So let's talk about it. Hey there, I'm Kathleen. Welcome to my channel. We talk about identity, culture, and transitions. I'm a writer, storyteller, and founder, and I help women navigate transitions with more ease and less chaos. If you're a woman who's done everything she's supposed to, and now you know you're meant for more, and you're building a life on your own terms, you're exactly who I write for on Substack. So check out the link in the description where you can subscribe for free or join the membership. Now let's talk about Cheyenne Bryant. So just for some backstory, Cheyenne Bryant goes by Dr. Bryant, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and she is a life coach, psychology expert, and social media personality. She has a book that just came out earlier this week. So she's been doing a book tour and making appearances on a few podcasts. Now, some of her comments on these podcasts have caused people or have led to people doing some research, a deep dive into her background. Some people were questioning whether she actually has a doctorate degree or if she calls herself a doctor because of her honorary doctorate degrees. And so earlier this week, she was on The Breakfast Club and she addressed some of the conversation specifically as it relates to does she have a doctorate? And so you can check out the clips on social media. Those have been circulating all week, and that has sparked more conversation because the conversation kind of died down for a couple of days and picked right back up. And so it looks like she does not have a doctorate degree outside of the honorary doctorate degrees. And there's no um, consensus or agreement on if people with honorary doctorate degrees, if they go by doctor. But even before she received her honorary doctorate degrees within the past couple of years, she's gone by, or her brand has been Dr. Bryant. People were introduced to her on Teen Mom, where she was a coach, a life coach for one or for during the reunions. I wasn't familiar with that, so I was just, going back on what I found in my own research. And then some people were also first introduced to her on Basketball Wives, where she was there, I believe, as a friend of Jackie Christie, and she was hosting an event, and she had introduced herself as Dr. Bryant. So I say that because she has built her brand as Dr. Cheyenne, Dr. Bryant, even before she received her honorary doctorates. And again, it appears that she does not actually have a doctorate degree. So there's all this conversation online. There are a lot of different themes that are coming up, but there's one question that I want to ask. And the question is, why create an identity around around being Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, when Cheyenne Bryant's story is more than enough? Cheyenne Bryant is a life coach with MFT training, marriage and family therapy training, who created her own lane to help as many people as possible who maybe don't want traditional therapy or maybe don't necessarily want, a clinical psychologist, a licensed provider, practitioner, a licensed therapist to help, but they want some type of help or motivation or something. Because there's absolutely an audience for that. There's a market for that. And in fact, most of or a lot of Cheyenne's supporters today are saying it doesn't matter if she has an actual doctorate or an honorary doctorate or any type of doctorate, they still support her. So all that to say is she created a brand around doctor when she didn't need to, because her backstory from, she's from the inner city. I believe she's from South LA. She's from the inner city, and she decided that she wanted to create a life for herself that was different from the environment that she grew up in. And so she worked hard and created a platform. And she had also said that she wanted to have a platform and wanted to have a TV show. Maybe she didn't say this, but maybe she was thinking she could be the female version of Dr. Phil, which, but the point is that she had this vision and she decided that she was going to create the space. She also said on The Breakfast Club that she said that ever since she was a young girl, she's always kind of moved to the beat of her own drum, or she calls herself a destructor. She said that if everybody's going right, she would go left. So she's always had this idea. Again, I think it goes back to how she grew up and deciding that she wanted to do things differently from what she saw. That story in and of itself is more than enough. That's interesting. So why create this doctor? persona, this doctor identity. Now, the thing is, I keep asking why. Why create this identity? Why create this persona? Why create this brand on this title of doctor when that's not actually who you are? I'm asking this question as though I don't already kind of know the answer. And I think it's because the messaging over the past several years on social media is that you have to be an expert. You have to, in order to have a brand, you have to be an authority. You have to show your expertise, whether it's real or not. Or you don't even have to show if it's real or not. You just have to show that you're an expert. Because social media and the internet rewards people who are authorities, even if that authority is made up. And so that's the bigger question is why do we platform people who present themselves with authority, whether it's real or not? And I just want to be clear. I think that Cheyenne, with even if she never had the doctor identity, I think she would have still built her platform. My point is that she didn't need the doctor identity to build it. I believe that. I believe that, like I said, as a life coach with MFT training, or even if she, as a life coach who wanted to create a path to help as many people as possible who didn't want traditional or, structural therapy or structural help, there's a market for that. Because I've been in and out of therapy for a few years. I've been in and out. I've worked with a life coach on and off for a few years. And there have been times in the past few years where I'm like, I don't want therapy right now, but I want some type of guidance or some type of support that's not necessarily structured. And I know the difference between, having or like when I need an actual licensed therapist versus when I just might need some support. And sometimes support, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. So yeah, sometimes that support comes with a fee. Sometimes, I mean, it is a service. So there's absolutely a market for that. So all that to say is going back to my point of why on the internet, why on social media do we need to present ourselves as experts? I think I'm also asking this question to myself in asking it out loud, the question of why create this expert brand or this identity where you're the expert or that you have these credentials or that you're this or that, because I did that myself. If you've been following me a while, or if you've been here from the very, very beginning, you'll know that I used to present myself or introduce myself as a transition strategist. The reason why I did that is because I'm not a life coach. At this time, I have no desire to be a life coach or be a certified life coach unless I'm called to do that. I'm also not a mental health professional, definitely not a therapist. I respect therapists. I am not a therapist. And I want to help women, primarily women. I want to help women make sense of change and transition and help more women find a state of ease through life's pivots and changes and transitions. And I do that through my own experience and through my own observations. But what I just said, I didn't feel like that was, I don't want to say credible, but maybe that's the word. Maybe I didn't think that that was credible up until maybe a couple of months ago. So I thought that, well, I'm not a life coach, I don't have certifications, and I don't intend to at this time. I need to present myself as an expert. So I called myself a transition strategist. So in asking why Cheyenne felt that she had to be a doctor or create a brand as a doctor to create her platform, I'm asking the same question of myself. Why did I feel the need to create a platform or position myself as a transition strategist, which is it's a word I made up. I don't really think that that's anything that's universal. It's essentially in my head, it's like change management, but for individuals because companies, well, I can also do change management for organizations, yes, but I also want to help individuals because change is really about individuals. But I digress. All that to say is I made up a name to present myself as, I guess, an expert because that's I was told to create an expert brand. But in creating that brand or starting to create that brand, and you'll notice that I've made some changes because it didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel authentic to me. It didn't feel like me because I'm not an expert in change. I can just help you based on what I've learned through my own experience. And ultimately, I just want to be able to help women through change and transition because I've been through a lot of change and transition in the past 8 to 10 years. And sometimes we make it harder than it needs to be. Change is hard, but there are things that we do that make it harder than it needs to be. And I just want to help women have easier lives, especially Black women and women of color. We need easier lives, softer lives. And I'm not, anyway, that's a whole other tangent. All that to say, the point I'm making and the question that I'd love to talk more about, let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Why do so many of us feel the need to create these expert brands or personas to build our brand or to reach people? If our goal is to help people, why do we feel the need to create these expert brands? Why do we need to feel the need to give ourselves titles that we didn't earn? Why does social media reward that? And is there a shift happening? Are we shifting to people who are sharing their stories, their lived experiences, where their story is enough? Because at the end of the day, each of us have unique stories. Our stories are more than enough as they are. So let me know in the comments what you think. And thank you so much for watching.